Hi everyone. This is a series of videos that I'm just going to take you through some tips, tricks, some hacks that I've learned with using a vintage sewing machine. So hopefully some of the things that I'm going to show you are helpful. There might be some things you already know. This first video is just on carrying a vintage machine, tilting the machine, and also being able to switch a machine from one base to another or into a treadle, vice versa. So this is just, hopefully they're just short videos, but if you've seen any of my others, I sometimes waffle on. So let's just start with the case. If you have a machine in a wooden case, and you've got your lovely handle there, this handle is not designed to carry the machine. Most people, and I've seen it happen, will carry the whole machine just by this handle. This wood here is quite thin. It's not designed to take the weight, and you know a vintage machine is quite heavy. So how do we transport a machine, say, from one room to the other or into the garden? Never, ever lift it by this handle. The handle is designed just to lift it off of the machine. That's it. That's its only purpose. Now, if I can show you on the camera, you can see it's only got a little piece of metal. This wood is thin, and okay, this case is in quite good condition, but you know, some of these wooden cases are so old, it wouldn't take much to just rip that handle straight out. This machine is a 99K, so I'm just using this to demonstrate. But with any machine, the bulk of the weight is this end. So if you were to lift by the handle, you can see that on the camera. If you're lifting it by the handle, the bulk of the weight is on this end, which means it can just tear off. So how do you transport a machine from, say, one room to the other, upstairs to downstairs, out into the garden? Take the lid off first, and then use the second handle. What second handle? Hold your machine by, no, that's got caught. Oh, it has got caught. Oh, that's better. All right, didn't hold the machine. Hold the machine by this handle. This is the heaviest part of your machine. Hold it with that part. The other option you've got, now with a 99K, I know that is heavy. That is heavy, and I was lifting that with one hand and it's still heavy. But even if you were to take the machine like that, you can lift it enough to put your hand underneath, and now you can hold that better. But I understand that, yes, they are, even though they're little, they're quite heavy machines. With a 99K base and with some other bases, for example, a 201 wooden base, that sort of thing, there's an additional feature. It's not on all of them because I've got a 128K and it's not on a 128. But if I turn it, there's a little lip there. Can you see that on the camera? Yes. That is for your fingers. So you could, I turn it this way, you can hold it by the hands on this end, which means you could keep the case on, but the lid on. But it's always better, if in doubt, take the lid off and then just lift by this. If you find that it's a bit mucky, or you've just oiled it and you've got a bit of oil, you don't want your hand to slip. So you can always take just some kitchen towel, which will be gentle around the decals, and then hold it like that, and then you can do the lift. Obviously, if you've got someone in the house that can lift it for you, great, but do tell them not to carry it by the case. The next thing I want to go through is tilting the machine. So I'm just going to move the lid out the way. So when you come to oiling the machine, obviously you're oiling the top, and then you've got to oil underneath. This machine is a good example, and I'm sure you've got other machines that do it. So let me put that in camera shot. When you go to tilt the machine, right, when you lift the machine out, it reaches a point of no return, and the weight of the machine will start to tip your base. And that's useless, which means you're having to put your hand on the base to then do the oiling. And it can be frustrating, or you suddenly take your hand off and then the whole machine is tipping. Not all machines do it, but I just find that the weight of the machine is about here. So it doesn't take much for that to just suddenly go, and then you've got a machine on its side. Get yourself a box or some books. I've just got an empty box, and get the machine to rest. So I know that if I move that, there's my tipping point as such. So I'm just gonna rest the box there. Now I know my machine's not going to go anywhere, I can then work on doing the oiling. A box is good, or some old books. You want something that while your machine is leaning this way, if you've just oiled it, you don't want oil to then spill over nice books. I have done that. So I just find like just a box, just something, or whatever's in the kitchen really, just something to stop the tilt. You don't find it so much happening, obviously, if you have a treadle, because the weight of a treadle is so heavy. It's not going to tip your machine. It's not going to tip the whole thing. But the ones that are in bases, you do find have reached that point of no return, and then they'll just go. So I could leave that like that all day now. I know it's not going to go anywhere. The next thing, let's move that out of the way. Say I wanted to move that into a cabinet, or I'm taking it out of a cabinet and moving it somewhere else. There are times where you have to take it out of the base. That's the easy bit. There are, as you know, or hopefully know, when you tip, now I wonder, can I show you this on the camera? Probably not. Let me show it. I'm going to take my machine out and just pop it there. And we'll talk first of all about these little fellas. Cabinet, treadle, they're all going to have these hinges. Is that on camera? Yeah. They're all going to have these hinges. Your machine locks into them, obviously, and if I bring this to the camera, it's heavy. And on the end there, you can see the little grub screws. What I do, I hate those grub screws. And I used to take the grub screws out completely, and then they would drop or fall down the side of a treadle, and then you're trying to find them forever. Don't unscrew them all the way. Don't take them out. Just unscrew them enough that you can wiggle them with your finger. But they can actually stay in the machine. You don't have to keep taking them in and out. So the grub screws of mine are still there. So I've changed machines, or I've taken, I'm about to take this out of its cabinet, and I'm going to put it back in there. These lovely things are really difficult. This one, for example, keeps falling down. That one I could leave up for a bit, and then it goes back down. So what I used to do, if I turn it that way, is have to try an angle. I'm sure you've all done this. Try to angle to slot it back in. That's fine if you've got the arm strength to do it. And this is only a 99. I mean, if I did this with the bigger machines, they're even more heavier. There is a knack to it, of being able to slot and hook them in, but there is an easier way. If I take this out, it got stuck. Take it out. Obviously, this is the heaviest part, so don't carry that part. Tip it gently so that it's lying on its side, because it'd be okay, you're only doing it for a few minutes. So lie it on its side and lift the base. Tilt your base so that your hinge things, where's the camera? Your hinge things will naturally fall with gravity, and then line up the base wood. That drops them straight in. So now the whole thing's on its side, and then simply lift. And then, oh, that one came out a little bit. I didn't do that with style, but that's actually, I find, is easier, especially with heavier machines. It's easier to lift the base and slot the base into the machine than it is trying to lift the machine and hook it into those spokes. It also depends where your base is kept. It might be in quite an awkward place. Now the other thing, if I just put it in there, and I take another base, and this is for a 201. It's all very lovely when those stick up. Great. Means I can just pop a machine in straight away. But if you were doing it with a treadle, the hinges are slightly different, as you know. These hinges in the base have 2 points. They either have the down point or the up point. They're the only 2 positions that they can go in, whether they're nice and stiff or they're nice and wiggly. On a treadle, they have an up point. If I do it that way, they have your up point when you're putting your machine down into the hinges. They have the working point, and then if you drop the treadle into the machine, the hinges will go down as well. That also means they're extremely wobbly. You've got to try and keep your hinges up so that you can drop the machine down onto the hinges and then bring it in line with the treadle and the wood of the treadle. But okay, that one's quite good. Imagine this is treadle pins, but most of the time they're moving, so that makes it really, really difficult to try and line them up. It's okay if you've got someone with you that can, you know, kind of hold that pin in position for you while you drop your machine in. But like me, sometimes I'm in the house on my own and I need to move the machine, and I have to try and do this by myself. And you can hold a machine for a few minutes, but it will actually take its toll. So a couple of things that will help you. If you've got hinges that are constantly falling down, if you have a rubber band, you can hook the rubber band over your 2 hinges, and that the elastic band, especially if it's a big one, will hold those up in place on a treadle. Then you can slot the machine in. When the machine then drops into its like normal working position, you can either leave the rubber bands there or just cut the rubber band, and it will take the rubber band off. That's if you've got a really good rubber band. But it also means if you're moving machines in and out of treadles quite often, you're going to go through a lot of elastic bands, and I already can see that band's not going to last much longer. The other option is to try, you've got to try and hold that pin upright while you're doing the machine. And it's always difficult because the machines are so heavy. So if I don't have a trusty elastic band handy, you can use face mask elastic and something heavy. I'm just using a weight, but something heavy enough to hold onto that elastic, and literally hook it round. And if I turn it that way, you see that? hook it over your pin so that it then weights down. Now obviously on a treadle the wood at the back is quite a lot, so but you can have that hanging down because all you're doing is holding that pin upright. So something like just like that, or just a piece of ribbon, something to hold those pins up just until you get the machine in, and then you can, you know, something that you don't mind cutting into, like a piece of face mask, elastic, or a rubber band, but they do help. The last thing I want to just show you with the machine is a little bit of magic. Well, it's magic if you don't know. Not magic if you don't, if you do already know this. Every single machine obviously has a serial number, and that is unique to your machine. But did you know that on the bulk of sewing machines, or every single one I've ever seen, also has a signature on it? And it's the signature of the, predominantly it was females in the Singer factory that put the decals on the machine, and they used to sign the machine just with their initials, possibly kind of old auditing or quality purposes, to say I have done these decals. So take your faceplate off, and I'm hoping I can show you in the right light. If not, I'm going to use a torch. So I'm going to get my torch ready. Hang on 2 seconds. And I'm also going to take the camera off. So on your machine, if you go to your faceplate, sorry, ignore the washing machine in the background, and I'm going to just shine a torch on the faceplate, and there you go. Can you see at the very back of the faceplate there are some gold letters? And sometimes the gold letters are worn out. Actually, no, I've not actually found that they've worn out. Most of the time it's one initial, but for this particular machine there's two, and you can clearly see NG. So they are the initials of the lady who did the decals on my machine. So take your faceplate off and have a look at the back. Might be a bit mucky if you've not cleaned your faceplate, behind the faceplate for a while, but have a look and you will see the initials of the lady that did your decals on your machine. So I hope that's been useful for you. Let me move that round. As I say, I'm going to do a couple of videos, and the next one I'm going to do is going to be on adjusting pressure and dealing with tension and loading a bobbin, those sorts of things. So yes, keep an eye out for my next video as well, but I hope this has been useful.